is the theme to the show. The show is all about you. Not you, but you and your story. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I am your host, Jeff Seltzer, and this is once again my own personal midlife crisis. So thank you for joining me today. I have a great guest today, really excited to talk to her, but first wanted to talk about another fairly quick topic. So as many of you probably know, because I've talked about it in the past, this show is largely hosted on Spotify, and then it's syndicated out to all the other places. So like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, whatever else like that. I get a lot of data through Spotify, and it's kind of how I understand, I guess, like where people are listening, all that kind of stuff. Over the last couple of days, Spotify put out some updates where they updated, and I guess number one, their app. So it no longer looks like that weird looking disco ball, go back to the legacy Spotify logo. They changed some of their back end information too. So for one of them they changed was previously for me to get credit for somebody streaming the episode, they had to listen to at least for a minute. Now it's 30 seconds, which I guess is beneficial to me, so I get more listeners. But they also changed a lot of the, I guess, the analytics and data that I see. Now, as a data geek, I love looking at it. But this is one that kind of like, I guess, caught me off guard. So my guest today is a college student. So if any of her friends or colleagues are listening who are, let's say, political science majors, would be very, very curious to see if they know of anything. So long story short, I'm always very excited when I get new countries listening to the podcast. So up until, let's say, last week, I got my 54th country, which is exciting, right? So I have every continent except for Antarctica and 54 countries. So across North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, wherever else, right? So today after the update, I no longer have 54 countries. Now I have 53 countries. So I'm trying to understand if it was just kind of like a weird data snafu from Spotify, or from a political science perspective, did any countries just disappear recently? Were there any wars that happened? Did somebody take somebody over? I mean, without getting too deep into it in today's political climate, nothing would surprise me. But like, did a country just kind of just poof, disappear? I don't know. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't happen. If you have any ideas, or if you know what might have happened out there from a political science perspective or a nature perspective, definitely reach out to me. You can find the show on Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. Send me a DM there if you have any ideas, or if you want to be a future guest, that'd be great. Also, the show is on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can email the show directly at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. You can find all things Jeff Seltzer at jeffseltzer.com. We are on all podcast platforms. So we are video on Spotify and YouTube. We are audio on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Pandora, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you could probably find this one. With that said, I did want to introduce my guest for this week. So first of all, Kate Egan, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally be here. I've heard so much about this podcast.
Of course. So we'll dig deep into that. But first, before we get into what you've been doing, who you are, and all that kind of stuff, if you can give us a little brief background on who is Kate Egan.
Yeah, so I am a rising senior at Texas A&M University. I'm originally from New Jersey. And what brought me to Texas was ultimately the equestrian team. So at Texas A&M, there is a Division I equestrian team. And this year we did win our first ever SEC championship. So we're very proud of that.
Awesome.
But I grew up my whole life riding. Basically, I kind of just fell into it because I live in the horse country part of Jersey, as you probably know, Jeff. But so it brought me all the way to Texas. And now I'm here currently doing an internship here.
Awesome. Cool. Well, first of all, thank you for joining the show. Really appreciate it. Secondly, just as a little background to anybody out there listening. So Kate and I worked together last summer. I thought Kate was amazing, did great work. I thought Kate was like just super potential and a lot of great things in her future. So, now that it's about a year or so out of us working together, figured this is a great opportunity to learn about you a little bit more. So a little more background about myself. So for those of you out there that may or may not know, my older daughter is about to graduate high school. So this will drop on Monday. My daughter's high school graduation is tomorrow on Tuesday. She graduated high school. She's going to start college in August. So one thing that kind of, I guess kept me up at night was, what does the college experience look like these days, right? So going from high school to college doesn't look the same as it did when I did it, because I'm 107 years old. And things are very, very different, right? So years ago, we didn't have we didn't text, right? Like everything wasn't over social media. Things were very different. Like when I wanted to sign up for classes, I had to call up to an automated line and hope for the best and maybe get through and type in numbers. Now I assume it's very, very different. So I guess before getting too deep into it, obviously, as you said before, you go to Texas A&M and you're a rising senior.
Yeah.
So before getting into like the specifics or whatever, like when you graduated high school and you were about to, or you did start college, like what was going through your mind? Like obviously also going cross country is a different thing as well too for you. So like, were you anxious? Were you excited? Kind of like, what did that experience feel like for you?
Yeah, so there definitely was some uncertainty because I was going so far away from home, but I I kind of was always used to traveling, especially on my own because of riding growing up. Like, my parents couldn't always come with me because they were working. So I was kind of used to being on my own, maybe in a different state sometimes, but I was very excited, and I think it helped that I already kind of felt like the A&M equestrian team was like a family. I had already met them on my visit. My coach is from New Jersey. I kind of knew some girls on the team already, and I'd only heard the best. So I was super excited. Of course, I was, a little sad to leave my family and everything, but I couldn't have been more excited. And to this day, I'm still so excited after the summer to go back to school. It's like, we go back to school and we have a week of practice before classes actually start. So we get settled in and just meet the new freshmen on the team, just really establish the culture for the year. And I'm just excited to go back every year. But the transition, it definitely was an adjustment. I mean, I was like 1,500 miles away from home, but it's funny, half the girls on my team are from the East Coast and half are pretty much from the West Coast. So a lot of us actually aren't even from Texas. So we kind of all just get used to, a new area together, and we all just kind of help each other out. So,
Nice.
you feel like you have a little piece of home with you. Cause I have one teammate, and her older sister used to be on the team as well, also from New Jersey. So we have good representation on the team.
Amazing. So again, equestrian at Texas A&M is a Division I sport.
Mhm.
And I think you mentioned to me before we went live here that you are one of the captains for your senior year, which is incredible. So congratulations again for that.
Thank you.
Of course. So I'm not really as familiar with, I guess, riding or equestrian as most other people are. And I'm not sure how my listeners are either. Can you, before getting into, I guess, like how you got recruited and such, just kind of briefly talk about like what exactly is equestrian?
Yeah, so equestrian is, of course, a sport where we ride horses. There's different disciplines. So I grew up doing hunt seat, which is where you jump. You also do some work on the flat, we call. So think of the flat as like you're doing maneuvers and you're being judged on the flow of the maneuvers, how well you execute it, how well your position looks. Of course, you want to look strong and you want to look unified with the horse. And then jumping, you are judged on how accurate your jumps were. So it gets very strategic, but you want to leave the ground from a certain distance to the jump. So sometimes it could be too far away, too close to the jump. So you want to find that sweet spot. And you just want to make it look very flowy, again, position. So it is a subjective sport. So you're given a score. Now, there is a division called the jumpers, which is what a lot of people see in the Olympics. And I have done that too. And I, still do it, but we don't do that in college. But just to go over that, so you are timed in the jumpers. You want to go clear, which means no rails from the jump fall down. And you want to go clear and be the fastest one. So that's typically what people see in the Olympics. It's called show jumping. And we all do that in the judged events growing up. But then once we go to college, that's when it's just the judged events, flat and fences on the English side. And then on the other side, which is new in college, is the Western side. So that's reining and horsemanship. So I don't really know as much about those, but I've learned a lot about it over the years. But it's almost like a completely different sport. We like to say it's like track and field. Like you're all teammates, you lift together, but you don't practice together. But you're all the same team and you all need each other to win. So on the reining side, I don't know if you've seen Yellowstone, but it's typically seen in that show where they run and do like a reining slide. And then horsemanship is a little similar to flat, but more the Western version. So they're doing maneuvers, but both of those events are also getting a score. So
Nice.
in college, it's a little different. So before college, you compete individually. You can get first, second, third, fourth, and so on. But in college, you're doing team versus team. So say it's A&M against Georgia, and you have 5 starters per event, and there's the 4 events. And you go head to head randomly against another girl from the other team. And to make it even more fun, you're on a random horse. So it's completely random. You get 4 minutes to warm up on a horse that you randomly drew that day. And then in you go to the ring, and you want to get as high of a score as you can. But the good thing is you don't need like the highest score of the day. You just need a higher score than your competitor.
Got it.
And then if you get the higher score, you win the point. And we say it's first to 11 because it's out of 20 points. So the first to 11 gets to win the meet ultimately. So it makes things fun. It avoids the bias of, oh, well, they just won because they had a nicer horse, or, I just had a really bad draw, because your competitor is riding the same horse as you. So you really just want to work through it, bring out the best in your horse, and just push through. Even if it's not feeling the best, just get a higher score.
So who provides the horses then? So like, let's say you're hosting or George is hosting. Like, does like the homeschool provide the horses? Does everyone travel with a set of horses? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the homeschool is the horses that we use. So when we go to Auburn, we ride their horses.
Got it.
But the cool thing is for postseason, like SECs and nationals, every school brings about 3 horses per event. And since every school brings a few horses for your meet, so say it's us versus Georgia, we will be riding like Auburn and South Carolina's horses. So we won't even be riding each other, like our horses or Georgia's horses. So that way it's a very neutral horse.
Right. Nobody's used to that horse at all. It truly is just like a brand new experience for everybody.
Yeah. And, sometimes since, we've seen these horses a lot, sometimes you'll get lucky and you're like, oh, I rode that horse a year ago. But for the most part, it's normally your first time riding it. But definitely when it's regular season, it can sometimes be a home team advantage because it is your horses. But there's so many horses at each school. Like, you're not riding every horse every day. So you know it better than your competitor, but a horse is an animal. So every day it's honestly different.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier girls, so I assume it's not intergender. And is there like a male's version of this as well, or it's literally just all female?
No, it's only female because NCAA, they only have male or female sports. So although we have, men who ride before college, they unfortunately can't ride for NCAA, but they can do like the club team.
Got it. Very cool. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, obviously, you are Division I, you are equestrian at your school. What did recruiting look like? Like, did you kind of quote walk on, or I guess ride on, or whatever they would call it? Or did like somebody recruit you, or like, how did that go?
Yeah. So actually June 15th, it's coming up. June 15th, after your sophomore year, you can be contacted by coaches from schools. And before that, they can't talk to you, can't email you back, but you can email them as much as you want because they see it. They go to shows to scout and watch you. Of course, they watch live streams of all the finals and the horse shows. So the coaches do a great job at really scouting and picking out, okay, who are our top prospects. So, because I get to see that now because I'm on the team. So I get to watch my coach do that with new recruits. But my experience, so in 8th grade, no, it was my freshman year, sorry, I kind of started getting interested in college riding. I'm like, okay, that honestly sounds really cool. I am very interested. So we talked to my trainer about it. And at the time, it almost seemed a little far-fetched because I was, in a lower division, still a good division, but not the level that we knew I needed to be. And we're like, oh gosh, it's going to be a stretch, but, why not just go for it? So, I got a new horse because the horse I had at the time was amazing, but she wasn't able to bring me to the level that I needed. So I got a new horse. I spent the winters as a working student in Florida with my trainer. So that means I get up, I do school until like 11, and then I work the rest of the day until like 7 or 8. And that way I was able to ride as many horses as I could because coaches really want to see you get on as many different horses because that's the way our sport works is get on an animal, and you can't really change it. You just got to adapt to it. So I spent the winters working, and then I would come back up to the Northeast in the spring and the summer and ride in upstate New York. And I would really just focus on getting on as many different horses as I can, good or bad, because they both can give you a good experience and something to take home. And ultimately, I got a horse who was a fresh import from Europe. So, he didn't have a lot of experience, but my trainer was like, this is a great prospect for us. He'll help me learn, I'll learn. So we ended up leasing him, and he brought me, all the way to the success that I had before college. But ultimately, as far as recruiting, I would send emails, and June 15th, after my sophomore year, I got contacted by A&M, the school I'm at now, and several other schools. And it's such a cool experience, because leading up to it, you're wondering like, oh, who is interested in me? Like, I hope schools are interested in me, and you're doing as much as you can to try to get noticed. And then June 15th, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, they know who I am. Like, okay.
Right. It's like a black box at that point, because they can't respond or do anything like as legally or whatever else like that. So you're kind of like, am I just yelling as the void and no one's listening to me? Or are they just waiting till like midnight on that day to kind of like respond and say, Kate, come to our school, we love you, kind of a deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, okay, wait, you've been getting my emails. And it's so funny, because, now I'm so close with my coach, and she's amazing. But at the time, you're like, oh my gosh, like, you don't know them, but you're like, you're amazing. And it's so cool to now just like, no, oh my gosh, like Abby, my coach, who contacted me like years ago, is, such an inspiration and a mentor to me now. And we work so well together. So it's just so cool to see that full circle. But yeah, so I ultimately signed I didn't sign that fall, but I committed that fall. I went on a few visits, and A&M was my third visit.
So fall of junior year, that is?
Yes. So the fall of your junior year. Yep. So I went, during football season when it's all fun. Yep. And A&M was my third visit, and I had 2 more left after A&M. But after the third one, I was like, no, A&M's the one for me. So nice. I ended up committing, and a year later I signed, and now I'm here, and it's just, the best decision I've ever made. And it's just so cool to look back on June 15th when I was contacted by my coach. And I'm like, I'm so thankful she gave me this opportunity.
Nice. So it sounds like no regrets. It seems like if you had to go back in time and do it, you'd do it exactly the same way again, right?
Yep, 100%.
Also, what I'll say is so like I obviously have very little to no reference or knowledge of equestrian, but like it's a huge time and just even geography investment, it sounds like, between like while you were in high school going to Florida and upstate New York, leasing a horse from Europe. Like it seems like it's just like a lot of like planning that like someone can't wake up one day and say, yep, I want to do equestrian in college. Like you've really got to prepare for it.
Yeah, it's crazy, because it definitely was a grind, and it was not easy, but I wouldn't change a thing. And, I made sure I stayed in public school. Like my parents were like, we're not taking you out of public school and doing online school. Like you're staying in public school. But fortunately, my public school, they let me go to Florida in the winters and work with like a schooling program that would proctor exams and tutor me. Okay. And my public school helped me so much, because if they didn't let me go to Florida, then it would have been very hard to achieve this, because just working and being able to ride that much in the winter set me up for the rest of the year, because our finals in riding are in the fall. So the winter, which is January to April, is it's one big circuit. So every week is a new horse show. That really sets you up for the rest of the year, because normally that's when you either get a new horse, or you're moving up a level, or you're developing more. So that really set us up for the rest of the year. So it was amazing. And I'm very fortunate and thankful for everything like my parents were able to do to help support me. But it definitely was, not easy. It was long days, and you left the barn feeling so filthy and gross, but it was so rewarding.
Sounds like it. So when in college, when is the quote equestrian season, right? Like, so people think football in the fall, they think baseball in the spring. Like what time of the year is generally the season?
So it's fall and spring, and both are equally as important. But the spring has the SEC championship, or whatever conference the school is part of, and the nationals tournament. So the fall is just regular season, spring is regular season, and then a mix of postseason.
So is it like a rankings, kind of like how, like, I guess other sports are, where basically like wins and losses count, and it's kind of cumulative from the fall to the spring, and then it builds up to the championship?
Exactly. Yes. And normally, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the rankings always are calculated. Of course, there's some formula that the NCAA comes up with, but typically, if you win on the road, you do get extra credit for that because it's harder to win on the road.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And I know, again, congratulations. I know your team won the championship or won like I'm not, how does that, like, is there like a champion or are there like different divisional champions? Like, what does that look like? 'Cause I know you guys won something big this past
Yeah.
spring, right?
Yeah, so it's one championship. So, well, for us, it's the SEC, but for example, like Baylor, TCU, they're in the Big 12. So before nationals, we all have our individual conference championships. So we won the SEC championship. So it was a tournament. We beat number one Auburn the first day, which was huge because we were at Auburn and they are a force to be reckoned with. Like they have so many fans that come out, which honestly makes it super fun. But it can be intimidating sometimes because there's not a lot of A&M fans out there because we're at Auburn and they had like, I think 2,000 people out there watching.
Wow.
And they were number one. So we're like, okay, we have absolutely nothing to lose. Like, what are we going to lose? This meet? Okay. Like that would not be good, but at least we can say we did everything we could. So we just, went full force and we rode like we had nothing to lose and we beat Auburn. And then the next day we went against Georgia in the championship and same thing. We're like, okay, like I know it's a little more nerve wracking today because the championship's right there in front of us. But again, like what are we going to lose? The meet, like that would suck. But, let's just we're just going to go for it. So we did that again. And it was our first ever SEC championship as a program, which
Amazing.
Until this year, I didn't realize that we had never won an SEC championship, but I think it was 2012 or 2013. We were in the Big 12 conference before as a school. So 2013, I think around that time we joined the SEC. So we only had 13 years
right.
in the SEC. And I mean, those SEC schools, they are competitive. So it is definitely not easy, but the fact that we were able to finally do it and the previous years we had been runner up. So we had, some fuel in us to not be runner up again. And it was amazing. So it's definitely a day I'll remember forever. Cause when you're before college, you win you're an individual. So when you win, it's amazing, but it's so much better and like cooler to win with like 50 other girls around you because there's so many moving parts. And the fact that I was able to experience that is just amazing. I'm so lucky, but it was the best day.
That's amazing. I mean, first, again, congratulations on that. That's really incredible. So between that and then being selected as one of the captains for next year, I mean, you must be, on cloud nine right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an amazing year. And we tried to do it again at nationals. We were so close. So we finished runner up, which is amazing. And I'm so proud of my team and the way it all played out. So we unfortunately lost with a tie. So it was 10-10. So then they go down to raw score and they calculate all of our scores and add them up. So we unfortunately lost in the raw score, but the way it works in the finals of nationals is they do one event at a time. Normally they run 2 events at the same time to make it go faster. So it started with reining, then horsemanship. And after the half, we were down a lot. I think it was something like 9 South Carolina and we had 5 or 4. So we were like, they only needed 2 more points to win and we had a whole other half to go.
Yep.
But we're like, okay, we have nothing to lose. Like they're so close to winning. Like, let's just try to make them fight for it. And we came back with 6 points. So we ended up tying it and we only gave them 1 point that whole 1 point. No, 2 points that whole 1 or 2 points. I don't know. 1 or 2 points that whole second half. And it was just an amazing experience to see like that we kept fighting. We made them sweat. We did not give it to them easy. And honestly, just the mindset behind it that we're down so much right now and it's so easy to give up. Like It's easier to give up than to choose to keep fighting, but we put it all out there and we ended up tying. We were very close to winning, but I'm so proud of just how well we came back and how we handled that. It's unfortunate we didn't win the national championship, but the way it played out, I couldn't be more proud.
And it's a crazy sport too, because unlike most other sports, like there is no playing defense, right? So it's not like you can go out there and, prevent them from doing something. It's basically, like you said, it's a subjective scoring that it's the best of your ability. But like, in a basketball or hockey or football, you can get in goal or you can block whatever. Here, you're just hoping that your performance is better than theirs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And nationals, the rounds are definitely very competitive because everyone has been training we have like about a month break between regular season and postseason. So everyone's been training. The horses in the final rounds, they choose like the nicest horses from every school. So you're given, good potential to score really high because you have really nice horses. The course is definitely harder, but it's hard in a way where you can really show off. So we're just like, we're going to show off. And if we mess up because we were trying to be too bold, then, oh, well, we're already losing, but let's try to be so bold that, they can't beat that.
So when you say bold, do you mean like be more aggressive, like maybe try things that you normally wouldn't, or like what, like, I guess strategically, what does that look like?
Yeah. So there's a fine line because you want to be bold in a way where you're pushing your horse to its limit without overdoing the limit. Because, for example, on the flat, all these maneuvers, you want to do them perfectly and bold in a way where it's like, sometimes you can try to push a horse too much and they end up, trotting when you're supposed to be cantering, which is a big deduction, or they end up doing something that was not intended that could result in a big penalty. So you try to show off in the best way you can. So if it's like show a lengthened canter, then if you're being bold, you are really like showing the judge, this is a lengthened canter by pushing and pushing and pushing. Or if you're jumping, you can do an inside turn. So think about it. If you land from a jump and there's another jump in front of like over there before your next jump, you're going to go inside that jump versus around because it's more advanced. And there's risk in that because it could look scrappy. You could maybe hit your leg on the jump, which would not be good. But if you do it slick and well, then it's like, wow, like how did she slip inside that inside turn? That was really tight, but she made it look really good. So bold in a sense where you're really just pushing it, but you're pushing it in the way where you still have a lot of control and you're not, messing up because you were trying to push it too much.
And it has to be weird, right? Especially if you're on the road, like you're pushing the horse, but you don't know anything about the horse, right? So this is your first time on the horse. So it's not like, it's history of limitation. So I guess my question would be like, are there any schools that might strategically have like, I don't know what the right word is, like a lame horse to kind of like trick you guys that maybe you try something that you probably shouldn't and they know the limitations, so they don't as much, or is that not really a thing?
Yeah. So I will say when there's, big teams like the SEC teams that come to us or when we go to them, we'll put in quirky ones that we know how to ride.
Right.
And they don't really. And they have 4 minutes to figure out how to ride this really quirky horse. But at the same time, they're quirky for a reason. Like we're no master at riding them because they're so quirky, but at least we know what they might do or how to manage it best. But sometimes, it doesn't work in our favor. And, we can put in a quirky one and the other team might win the point. Because I find sometimes going away and riding a horse I've never ridden before and I don't know anything about, it's like ignorance is bliss. Like you don't know if it might act out or you're just riding what's underneath you, what they're like that day. But when you're home, sometimes you have all this like, previous experiences with these horses that you're anticipating sometimes. And sometimes that ends up maybe not working out for you because you just need to ride what's underneath you that day. So we definitely sometimes, put in some quirky ones and it might not be the prettiest rounds, because it's a weird horse, but it really tests the riders like, okay, who can ride this weird horse the best?
Of course. So question for you. And again, I am not a college sports fan at all. So I'm more of a pro sports fan. I grew up in Jersey, as did you. And because we're surrounded by so many professional sports teams between Philly, Jersey, New York, I never got into college sports. With that said, in preparation for this conversation, I did look up some notable Texas A&M professional athletes, let's say at this point.
Okay.
I assume you probably like, you're a D1 athlete at Texas A&M. I assume in the gym or something, there's probably like a board with like every, NFL and NBA player that ever went to Texas A&M. Is that a thing, or is that not really?
Yeah. Yeah. In every sports, I guess, not, I don't want to say locker room, but they have like in every sports lobby or facility, they have a bunch of those things. And in our Ford Hall of Champions, they have every sport. So yeah, we do get to see those.
So I guess thinking, I don't know your level of like pro sport interest or college sport interest, but like you've seen the names, whatever, are there any that jumped out at you that you're like, hey, that's my guy or my girl who I like a lot, or not really?
From Texas A&M?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
I mean, if you want, while you're thinking about that, I can tell you from the list that I found of some that jumped out at me.
Tell me the list.
Yeah, of course. So Myles Garrett. So Cleveland Browns, I think defensive line or something like that. Like one of the best in the game.
I should know him.
Just got traded to the Rams. Huge news in the last couple of weeks. Should be interesting to see what happens next season.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Cardinals. It's a big one. I mean, not big.
I'm embarrassed. I should know this.
I am taller than him, so it's not really a big one. But I mean, but I'm only 5'8", so I don't know. Mike Evans. I'm not sure if he's retired yet.
Yes, I do know Mike Evans.
Receiver for the Bucks. I'm not sure if he's gotten traded since then or not. Obviously, probably the most notable and definitely very polarizing Johnny Football.
Johnny Football. Yep. Johnny Manziel.
That's right. Not much of an NFL career, but obviously some news that came out of him, and definitely, an entertainer of sorts, let's say, right?
Yes, he's the reason why Kyle Field, our stadium, is the way it is, because they did a massive reconstruction, and now we hold about 105,000 people, and that was all because of when he was there. Because
he was a draw, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah, everyone wanted to see him.
Yes, isn't that crazy?
That is. I mean, again, I never really followed him much in college, obviously a little bit in pros or whatever, but like, it's amazing what if he had put a little more effort into his pro career, like how much more he could have been just based on the potential he showed in college, right?
I know. It's like the biggest heartbreak story you hear, because he could have been something so big.
Yeah.
And he still has a name for himself, but maybe not in really the way that we want.
Yeah. Anybody interested? There's a documentary on Netflix. I think it came out like last summer or something on Johnny Manziel. Definitely interesting.
Is it Moneyball? Is that
it's something like that. Yeah. It was pretty eye-opening. And again, as someone who didn't really follow his career until the pros, definitely a lot of notable things happened that they kind of walked through. And it was a pretty honest approach, it looked like.
Yeah, and I've heard he's the reason why we have NIL now. I don't know if you're familiar with NIL.
Yeah, it's how college athletes can get paid, right?
Yeah, because he didn't get any money.
Yeah. I think he was too young for that. They introduced it afterwards. I'll say for myself as a video gamer, I was most interested in it when they were able to start putting college athletes into video games. So like years ago growing up, they put out like NCAA football, and they would have football players who look almost kind of like the actual college players, but not quite, and had fake names because they couldn't pay them, so they couldn't use their likeness. So then once the NIL happened, they put out college football. I think EA Sports did last year, and all of a sudden it's got like 95% of like the NCAA football players and stuff like that. So it's next level. That like, I'm sure growing up, again, I know statistically most won't make the NFL. So it's got to be pretty cool that at least they can say, hey, I was in a video game.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I guess not to get too deep into it, but does equestrian pay out nil at all, or is that not really a thing?
No, unfortunately not. And it's something that, I hope one day our sport can, because, it's really cool how athletes can be paid. I mean, some athletes are paid like ridiculous amounts, but fortunately, our sport can give full rides, and that,
pun intended, of course, but continue.
Exactly. Yeah. I hope one day we can get to that stage. I think it's hard because, we're not a revenue generating sport. Right. So, but hopefully one day, I'm hopeful, maybe my kids.
That'd be great. I mean, that's all we can hope for, is that our kids have a better experience and have more resources than we did growing up. Right.
Yeah.
So with you graduating, hopefully a year from now, do you see yourself like is there a professional equestrian, or do you kind of see yourself kind of retiring that and doing something else, or kind of like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So you can go professional. There's no drafting. You just go professional. Instead of registering as an amateur, you just register as a pro. And I've really considered it. This sport has been my life for my entire life. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment, not really doing it as much. But these summers with the internships have honestly been really good for me to understand, okay, who am I besides my sport? Because it's like a real thing as athletes experience after college. You're like I've been doing this every day, every holiday. Like, what do I do now? But something I really want to do is after I graduate, get a job, and then just ride as an amateur, but on a competitive level. Like I'm someone, I can't just casually compete. Like if I'm riding, I want to, be competitive and try to win as much as I can. I just love the game of it. But I did consider going pro. And the reason why I ultimately decided I don't really think that's for me is it's just too much of a grind in a way where you don't really have a home base because you're traveling, you're on the road all year. The hours are a little tough, but I wish that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna risk it. I'm not gonna have a home base, but unfortunately, like, I want a home base. I want to one day have a family. And I think going like the more, okay, I'm gonna get a job and do this like as an amateur career will give me more of that balance because I don't want to get burnt out in the career and then, turn sour to it. So that I decided I'm going to go amateur. And the nice thing is if one day I'm like, I'm going to go pro, I can just check a box
Right.
and go pro. So
Nice. Cool.
yeah.
I mean, I can imagine, right? I mean, I'll say, and it's not quite the same level, but I remember like years ago, I went for my MBA, and I got my MBA in marketing. I finished it like December of '06, not to date myself too much. I do remember though, at that point, like when I was done, like every Saturday when I was home doing nothing, I felt like I should be doing something because I was always
Yeah.
in kind of the mindset of I have homework or I have group projects or I have papers, which, when you're done with college, I'm sure you'll probably see a similar thing too, where it's kind of like, after 13 years of elementary, middle school, high school, and college, 4 years of college or else like that, you're looking at it and you're like, I've never had a time where I've been like unattached where I didn't have something that I have to do like that.
Yeah.
And to have free time, it took me a little while to adjust to that. I could definitely see, and this is next level in the fact that I'm sure you're 24/7 in equestrian that after doing it for all these years, you take a step away and you're like, what does this look like? Right.
Yeah. You're like, wait, I have so much more time because riding, you get up at 5 a.m. because you have to ride the horse before the show starts and you're kind of going until like 7 o'clock. So it's not an easy schedule, but you do it because you love it. And when you have an off weekend, you're like, wait, what do I do? Like, so it's been nice this summer because I'm not able to ride as much because my barn's back in New Jersey. And I really miss riding, but it's been interesting to do other things on the weekends and just see like, okay, like, do I have any other hobbies? Like, probably not, but one day, like once I get a job, I'll, try to keep riding and competing. So, and honestly, being away from it for a couple weeks, maybe like a month or two while I'm interning, it makes you really excited to go back in the fall because you're like eager and itching to go back.
How is the muscle memory on that? Like, is it something where like you don't do it for a while and it takes time to kind of get used to it again? Or is it like day one, it's like you never got off the horse? Or like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, so it definitely is a lot of muscle memory in a sense where, okay, you get back on. So, I'll probably it'll probably be like a month or two break that by the next time I get on a horse, which is crazy. Like I never thought I would say that. It's really weird. But when you get on, you're like, it's muscle memory. And you're like, okay, like you feel right back into it. But the next day you are so sore
Oh,
and
sure.
it's you get out of breath a lot faster. And you might be a little rusty, but the nice thing is you can feel like, okay, like exactly what to do because you've been doing it your whole life,
Right.
but you just might not be as like, fine-tuned because you haven't done it in a little bit. So the
Got it.
nice thing is when we go back to school, we have a few weeks before we have like a month and a half before our first meet. So we have a lot of time to get back into it because other girls on the team are interning as well. So some are riding all summer, but those of us that are working, not in the writing industry this summer, we have a few weeks and months to get back up into it. But it's interesting because I just rode last week at my friend's barn, and it had been the first time since nationals in April. And I got on and just jumped around, and it felt like I had just ridden yesterday, and it was so fun. But the next day, I was hurting, like
I'm sure.
my inner thighs, like what's on the saddle. It's like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize I was working that hard in the moment, but then you really pay for it the next day.
I'm sure. I mean, I can't even imagine because I'm not really built for that. I don't like to do it, but it just sounds like, again, just like for me, the tensing up and the up and down and stuff like that. Like if you're not
Yeah.
used to it, it definitely hits you hard, doesn't it?
Yes. And then when you're, jumping, and since I've been doing it for years in the air, it's like it's second nature to me. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I'm going with the horse now, but you don't realize how much your legs are, clenching on to the horse
Of course.
because you're so used to it. And you're like, oh my gosh, the next day you're like, okay, that's probably why I feel so sore.
Definitely. So we are running late in time. But I did want to ask you again about something else actually too. So
Mhm.
I know I'd seen, or we talked about in the past, whatever, that you have a podcast of sorts of your own. So you've had some experience hosting. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that experience, like what that is, and maybe even like how people can listen to it if they want to?
Yeah. So in the fall, I was a part of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So it's basically the legislative body between the athletics administration and then the student athletes ourselves. So my role was VP of Marketing and Communications. And what I was basically, so my teammate actually was the president of the org. And she was like, I really want you to start a podcast. Like, I think that would be really cool. Cause normally you're running the Instagram. And she's like, I think we should do something a little bit more like engaging and just cool for people to watch. So we were fortunate enough that our school had recently rebuilt us, the athletes, a brand new building. And in that building was not only a podcast studio, but a podcast studio with like the cameras and
Amazing.
the chairs. You can even do like, I think the news reporting on like the high top. So I was like, okay, this is honestly a really cool opportunity. So what we did was I brought in other student athletes on other teams every month, and I interviewed them, just basically what you're interviewing me on, like their background, how they got to where they are now, and their plans for the future. And it was really neat because I met, there's the athlete bubble. It's kind of small. Like you see everyone, like of people, but you don't always get the chance to get to know them because we're all so busy and on the go.
Right.
So it was really cool to bring in people on other sports and learn about them and what they value and what they love. And it was really cool. So I was able to do a few episodes. I interviewed a golfer, one of my women golf friends.
Nice.
And she actually was on the Ellen show. That's what I learned on the podcast.
That's cool. That's amazing.
I know. I'm like, okay, that's not an everyday experience. That's awesome.
That's right.
And I was able to interview one of our football players. He is the 12th man of our football team. So I don't know if you are familiar with that, but our school, the big tradition is home of the 12th man. So years and years and years ago, there was a guy that was in the stands or so. We only had 11 football guys in like 100 years ago or so.
Like the entire roster. I know, because usually you play 11 on the field at a time. So literally everybody's playing Iron Man, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's 11 suited up, and
sure.
They needed 12 to be able to play the game. So someone, I think from the stands, came onto the field and suited up, and they were able to play the game. So he never ended up playing. But the reason, or the tradition of that story is every fan is always ready to support and cheer on the sports, or just the school. So every sport normally has like a 12th man, and it's someone who embodies the core values and traditions of an Aggie. So especially for the football team, where we have like a national fan base, it's really neat to understand like how did he get chosen for this and what it means to him. So he was our 12th man.
That's cool.
He's the only one that can wear the number 12 on his jersey, and it's given to him. So it was really cool to learn about that.
That's cool. So is there like a competition every year to be the 12th man, or someone selected, or like how does that work?
Yeah, they're selected. So there's normally, I think he said that there were 4 guys that the coaches and the team kind of nominated, and then they chose from those nominations. But it was his second year as the 12th man, which is really cool that he's the one that gets the number 12 on his jersey, and he runs out with the A&M flag. So it was really cool. He's kind of, not the mascot of our school, but a lot of people look to him as, a representation of our school. So it was really cool to learn about that.
Awesome. So are these podcasts that you did back in the fall, are they like for students only? Are they out on national platforms? Like if somebody wanted to hear them or check them out, how could they if they wanted to?
Yeah, so they're on the Aggie Athletes YouTube. So it's at Aggie Athletes, and anyone can watch. The only people in the podcast are me. I normally have another co-host, which is also a part of the organization. And then, yeah, we're interviewing the athletes. And one of the podcasts, we brought in a former Texas A&M athlete who is now a professor at A&M. So, yeah, anyone can watch it. Please watch it. And hopefully there will be more in the fall. I won't be in that role in the fall, but I'm pretty sure they're going to continue doing the podcast. I wanted to focus more of my time on, being a captain and focusing on the team and my academics. So, but I know someone is in that role and she is amazing. So I'm hoping they continue to do it.
Very cool. Well, Kate, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. You've been very generous in terms of your stories and sharing, your background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know you'd mentioned the podcast on YouTube that you had from school this past year. Anything else that you want to plug or any other social medias you want to put out there?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Kate__Egan. But also please follow the Texas A&M Equestrian Instagram. Hopefully we're able to win a back-to-back SEC championship and a national championship. So that'd be amazing. So if anyone would like to follow along, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, again, Kate, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. For those listeners out there, as a reminder, the Instagram for this podcast is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can find the show on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. You can email the show directly at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. We also have everybodyhasastorypod.com for some other fun stuff. We are on all podcast platforms. We are video on Spotify and YouTube. We are audio on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find this. With that said, we should be back probably next week or maybe in 2 weeks with another episode. So have a great day, and we'll listen soon. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.